Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Benjamin Poole, one of the head traders at Verified Investing. Actually, I wanted to mention Verified Investing today. So I go live every morning at 8:45 on verifiedinvesting.com. If you guys want more technical analysis, other than the couple charts that I give you guys today or in my videos on the weekly basis, check out verifiedinvesting.com. Again, 8:45 every morning the market is open. I go over a couple different long levels and a couple different short levels. And thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. You guys are awesome. I know a couple of you mentioned OKLO and ASTS. So we're going to go ahead and dive into those charts, show you what I'm seeing in those, and then let you know where some additional support and or resistance levels are. I'm also going to go over SMR as well. It's a nano-nuclear play. So if it gets into a key support level, I do have some levels on that as well. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, here we go, 1 second. Let's change the view. I like being up in the upper right-hand corner. First stock I'm going to go over is OKLO. So what I'm noticing in the charts is you had this nice rise above this pivot high from the 6th of August of 2025. As you see, as soon as price finally established itself above this, off to the races you went on OKLO. And then you made this huge move to the upside. Look at this, 130% move from that pivot high from August. Now, price action is headed in back down 56%. There are still a lot of people who are going to be sitting at that August high who are waiting to buy this, especially if they can pick this up for over a 50% discount. Talk about FOMOing into a particular trade. They felt like they had missed this entire move. And so when price action does get there into the $84.04 level, we should get a pretty sizable bounce to the upside. Right now, we still have kind of a head and shoulders pattern that is likely to play out. So I'm going to show you how I'm going about factoring in a head and shoulders pattern. So what I'm going to do is go to the patterns tool in my TradingView account, get this head and shoulders pattern. I'm going to take this pivot low to the high, the apex of what would be considered the shoulder, and then the low end. And then I'm going to take it to the apex of the top of the head, go back down to the armpit, top of the shoulder, and then back down. So what I'm noticing is you've got this nice shoulder, head, and shoulder. This doesn't guarantee that this pattern is going to play out, but it does show that there have been some buyers and sellers mixed in here. When selling pressure does continue, you can push this quite a bit lower. How we'd factor in what's considered a measured move is you take the apex of the head. Let's go to the head of the apex down all the way to the neckline. Oh, let me try that again. And then you take that exact same measurement from the break point. And this is a little bit longer. And you notice I've already got my low pivot point here at $36.83 is where a measured move would be. So if this chart pattern as head and shoulders plays out, that's where price action could actually head down to. We do have, again, some additional support levels. The first one being at 84.04. And then we got to look for additional support levels. So if you notice this a little bit of a shoulder, head, shoulder, this wasn't a very good head and shoulders pattern. So as you can see, it didn't play out. But I want you to notice that there's a lot of price action right in this $75 level. So I would anticipate price action getting down to about the $75 level and getting maybe a $5 bounce, which would be, a 6 to 7% move to the upside. If you zoom out a little bit more, it correlates with this other pivot from the highs on the 16th of June, 2025. So you can tell that there's going to be a lot of support levels for OKLO. It is continuing lower today. It did look like it was going to get back up to this $111.17 level, which is a gap fill. So if price ends up pushing to the upside, again, that's where price action is likely to get rejected, and then it can continue to move to the downside. Overall, I think OKLO is now going to continue a little bit lower. Now let's check out what the RSI is telling me. I like to go over the RSI. The RSI is a momentum indicator. So on a strong stock, a 50 or a pierce of the 50 is a good buy level. And so if you notice, it had a good dip and then a nice peak above the 70. dropped below the 50. Look at this, it got down to 45 at this red bar candle. And then look at the bounce. Good buy level, jumped 31%. Now we have the RSI staying really negative underneath the 50. This is a little bit of a shift in momentum, indicating that there's a lot more sellers involved than there are buyers. This could push the RSI down to about the 30, which would then push continue to push the price of OKLO down to those key technical levels. The first level that I would really be interested in buying would be that 84.04, and then look for a dollar cost average into it about the $75 level. I would also want to confirm that with the RSI. If it can pierce the 30, then that would give me additional confirmation that could be an oversold condition, which would likely move to a bounce. The next one I'm going to go over is ASTS. ASTS is a little bit more of an outlier. Usually you get upsloping trend lines, and third hits of upsloping trend lines favor a move to the downside. Look at what happened on ASTS. You have this pivot high from the 21st of August, 2024, pivot high from July, 2025. This was the second hit. So you take these two pivot tops and draw a trend line, or connect those two pivot tops, and that's how you create your trend line. Usually on a technical basis, you get a pullback on a third hit of an upsloping trend line from the underside. ASTS, again, was an outlier. It just punched right through it. So that means there's a lot of support if it gets back into that level. And look at what happened. Price got up to $102, came back into the $67 level, and then look at this bounce. So there was a lot of buyers who stepped up as soon as price got above it and then retraced. Price action is now below that upsloping trend line. Once was support, now is resistance. As you can see, price got rejected underneath it, or it closed below it, try to get back above, and then closed back below it, and now is into a nice gap fill at $56.94. If price action continues lower, you have to look for additional support levels, which would be this gap fill on ASTS sitting at $49.08. The nice thing about the $49.08 level is you have the $50 whole round number. It's a key psychological level. If you're shorting this, where are you looking to take profits? You're looking to take profits at a pierce of a whole round number. And you're not looking for necessarily 49, but a $50 level is where you would likely cover. Or if you're buying this, you're looking for a $50 pierce. And so combine those two together, and you've got a great bounce level around the $50. And knowing that there's a gap fill at $49.08, you should get a pretty sizable bounce off of this level. As you can see, we did get close to this first gap fill at $56.94. And that's probably why we're not getting a bounce today. So the next level, again, is right at the $50 mark. If you see, there is a lot of space to the downside for some support, but there's not additional support really until you get down to the $42 level. And so this is one of the stocks that I would probably dollar cost average into and be on the safer side and start with a really small position of my portfolio. Unless you're just doing it for a day trade. If you're doing it for a day trade, then that $50 whole round number is going to be a good move for about a 3, maybe a 5% bounce to the upside. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on with the RSI. This was also a momentum stock. As you can see, we had a nice pierce of the 70, and it got up to 85 on the RSI, indicating that this was overly extended. Got this pretty sharp pullback. It got down to the 50. Didn't actually pierce the 50 because it was so extended above the 70. So once it hit the 50, got that 21% bounce. Now a shift in character, indicating that there are more sellers involved in this than there are buyers, pushing the price down. I would actually wait for a pierce of the 30. As you can see, when the price gets to around the 30 or an oversold condition, then you could probably bounce. I would like to see this instead of the $56.94. I would like to see a pierce of 50 with the RSI hitting just around the 30. And that would give me further confidence that the buyers are now out of the way and the sellers the sellers are out of the way and the buyers can step in and drive this up. This would be a nice move to the downside. This would be about a 50% haircut to the downside based on the fact that it's a momentum stock. People are dying and waiting to get into this. $50, I think, is a great level. SMR is another stock that I'm eyeing as well. This was an additional momentum stock. Look at how far the RSI can get down. You have these big moves to the upside, and now that we're below the 30 into some support, we should be expecting a bounce. However, SMR isn't respecting too many of the support levels. So I had this huge support level at $22.32. You had this beautiful upsloping trend line. That price action just cut through. So right now, the momentum in this is gone, and the sellers are driving this thing down. My next level on SMR is $17.69. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this trend line because it broke that trend line. I'm going to get rid of this gap fill. It broke down there. Now we're in technically a downtrend, breaking this upsloping trend line. But if we can get low enough, fill this gap with this low pivot, $17.69 should be a pretty good level on SMR. If it drops a little bit more, you do have a gap fill a little bit lower at $13.62. This would also be this would probably be considerably underneath the 30 on the RSI into really big support. You got this pivot top right here, these pivots right here. This should be again a pretty good buy level at $13.37. So this would be your first level, and then you can add dollar cost averaging to it. It would be about a 22% move to the downside. So dollar cost averaging every 10 or 15% would be the right move on SMR. Anyway, that's what I have for you. Thank you so much for leaving your comments. I love looking at your comments. If you guys want to see any other stocks, let me know. I'll be happy to take care of that. And if you guys are getting something out of this, please make sure you're sharing with your friends, you're liking, you're commenting, you're hitting that subscribe button. And then please come join me at verifiedinvesting.com every morning at 8:45 so you can get additional charts. And I would love to see you there. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.